It is not the business of the Pakistani state to be in business, but it can be the state of the foreign state to be in Pakistani business. So when you don't have a principle, then you don't have a policy, you don't have guidelines, these are the kind of decisions you end up making. The only objective of privatization today is to earn foreign exchange because they have to beef up the reserves. Because we have a trade deficit and the reserves have to be beefed up. I want to also say that in 1988, when General SZA died, General Aslam Beg was Army Commander-in-Chief. He is considered to be very magnanimous, very democracy-loving. He could have taken over if he wanted, but he didn't. He held elections and he handed over power to whoever won the elections. That's not strictly correct. The fact is that the SZA regime had undertaken debt on a very large scale. You know, when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was deposed in 1977, Pakistan's debt GDP ratio, that is the percentage of debt as a percentage of GDP, was 24% in 1977. In 1988, when SZA died, it was 48%, doubled. And the generals knew that the 1990s is the time to repay all this debt. And there is going to be a very serious debt crisis. So let's get out. Let's hand them over and blame the civilians for wrecking the economy, which they did. And they hired my friend, he's still my friend, but unfortunately, Ashfaq Hasan Khan, Dr. Ashfaq Hasan Khan, to do this propaganda. For 2 years or 3 years, his only job was to run down the politicians, saying, look here, they came and they mired Pakistan in a debt crisis. But the debt crisis started when you took the loans. The debt crisis does not start when you start repaying the loans. Those of you, again, who are old enough, 1984, Mehboob-ul Haq, who was finance minister, floated whitener bonds. That if you have black money, you buy these bonds and your money is white. Of course, you know, he got into trouble with the US Treasury Department for that. But that's besides the point. 84, there were 10-year period bonds. These bonds matured in 1994. The government in 1994, Pakistan's debt repayment went up by 40% in just 1 year because all those debts had to be paid. Why I'm saying this is because we are facing a similar situation, about to face a similar situation. The trade deficit and the services deficit is going up, is just out of control now. And Pakistan is facing a looming foreign exchange and a balance of payments crisis. I think soon the generals are going to hand over power, because they will then say, we created $13 billion of reserves. See, the civilians came and took it all away. But they are going to go away anyway. Actually, they have gone. In reality, the 13 billion does not exist because our trade balance exceeds 12 billion. We owe the world more than 12 billion. It's more than our reserves. The crisis has already come. And there is no way the government can control it. They don't have the means to control it. I think they have very recklessly ruined the economy. And why is it going to get worse? It is going to get worse because of a number of reasons that everybody talks about. But one additional reason is the power crisis. When the power crisis hits, our manufacturing sector is going to be hit too. Our exports are going to go down. Already textile exports are declining. So our exports are going to go down. Imports are going to continue to rise. Deficit is continuing to rise. There will be pressure on the rupee. The rupee will devalue. And that's the time the generals will hand over power. But let me amend my statement. They will not hand over power. They will only hand over the government. The regime, by its reckless policy, has benefited several mafias. There is now a banking mafia in the country, controlled by foreign banks. There is a land mafia, there is a stock exchange mafia, and there is a generals mafia. A lot of generals' colonies have come up. Land allotted to them for 5 lakhs is sold for 5 crores. What an easy way to make money. But the poor have suffered. And I want to leave you with an image that I have come across, the kind of which I've come across in my primary surveys and when I'm studying poverty. Imagine a woman standing on the crossroads with a few rupees in her hands, and she's wondering, let me say this in Urdu, somehow I can say it better. ये औरत खड़ी है सड़क के किनारे मुट्ठी भर पैसे लेकर और सोच रही है कि इस पैसों से अपने बच्चे के लिए दूध लेकर जाए या दवाई लेकर जाए, दोनों नहीं ले जा सकती वो. ये जनरल मुशर्रफ और शौकत अजीज़ की लेगेसी है हमारे लिए. शुक्रिया.
Thank you, Dr. Kaiser Bangali. We will have opened the forum only for about 10 minutes for a question-answer session in case somebody wants to ask. We should have a wireless mic here. Please identify yourself with your name and organization if you have any. Can we have any questions? Anyone wishing to ask? Asif Said Memon in the back. He's a faculty member from SZABIST.
I have a question. In 1999, or let's forget 1999, 2001, September 11, the way this government has exercised its economic policies, what would you have done differently in order to achieve the things that you say they have not achieved?
Our infrastructure has deteriorated to a point where your productive capacity does not exist. We need to invest very heavily in infrastructure. When you are investing, your growth rates are going to be low. So we have to accept the fact, publicly and explicitly accept the fact for the next 5 years, we are not going to target high growth rates. We're going to invest in development of our infrastructure. Where will the money come from? Certainly not from deficit financing, because we've seen from our historical analysis that it creates very serious problems. The only way out now is to reduce non-development expenditure. That's what I would do. In fact, whatever scenarios you run, and when I was previously working at SPDC, we have something like a 400 equation macroeconometric model where you can actually create various scenarios and see what impacts they will have. We ran several scenarios, and you cannot do anything without reducing down development expenditure, primarily defense expenditure. That has now become the albatross around our neck.
Kaiser, we today have a foreign debt of something like $37.7 billion, and we seem to be continuing to keep taking more and more foreign loan, like the access to justice 350 million, like the alternate energy 500 million, and the famous poverty alleviation, which was a couple of $1 billion. Now, do you think, A, that these are significant steps that we are taking which are making us further poor? And B, do you think that what should be our alternate solution to taking loans? Thank you.
I don't think we should take loans. I think Pakistan is a rich country, resource-rich country. We don't need to take loans. We can avoid it. The only foreign assistance that I think we need is technical assistance in health and education, because we have deteriorated our education infrastructure also. You don't ask any CEO of any company, and he or she will say that, give me a good private secretary who can at least draft letters, and you don't find any. So that's the only technical assistance we should take. Otherwise, and we certainly don't need money for access to justice. We should know how to run our courts. We've done that for centuries. Why do we need foreign money to run our courts? Justice Saab is sitting here. He should know that money does not deliver justice.
Hello, Doctor. I'm Abdul Wasai from MBA. And my question is about the nationalization. Speaking about the foreign investment, the problem that the foreign investors faced during the nationalization period, what is the message that goes out, especially referring to the examples of the United States that you gave? I think that the United States has a separate economical existence and procedures.